All right, so you know that feeling, right, when you're like really trying to wrap your head around something, something that's interesting, like you want to get to the bottom of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, understand it inside and out, but without like going down a million rabbit holes.
Right.
You just want that like aha moment, you know, where everything clicks without it feeling like you just signed up for like a whole college course on it.
I totally get it.
Well, that's what we're doing today.
Yeah.
You guys shared something super interesting with us.
Yeah.
It's framed as like these real accounts from night watchmen, and it's called Real Nighttime Horror Stories.
Oh, cool.
And we're going to be specifically focusing on this one guy.
Okay.
His name's Marcus Reynolds, and he's like a new night security guard.
Right.
At this recently closed hospital, it's called Pinewood Memorial Hospital, and it's in Maine.
Okay, interesting.
And, you know, at first glance, it seems like a totally ordinary place.
Right. Typical kind of spooky setting.
Yeah.
An old hospital.
But there's definitely something more to it, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It sounds like the perfect setup for something creepy to happen.
Totally. And that's what we're going to unpack today.
Awesome.
So, like, what stands out to you right away about this whole contrast, you know, this ordinary guy in this not so ordinary place?
Well, it's interesting because you've got this guy, Marcus, who's just trying to find work after losing his job at the lumber mill after like 19 years.
Yeah, he needs that paycheck.
Exactly. It's not like he's looking for adventure or anything. He just needs to make ends meet.
Right.
And then they put him in this setting that just immediately feels off, right?
Yeah, totally.
Even the way they describe Pinewood Memorial, like a weathered skull with the windows being like empty eye sockets.
Ooh. Yeah, that's creepy.
And that constant smell of antiseptic and dust. It just makes you feel like there's a history there, something heavy. You know what I mean?
Definitely like some stuff went down in that place.
Exactly.
So for me, it's that clash between needing security, like Marcus does, and being in a place that feels inherently insecure. And that's what makes it so compelling to me.
I see what you mean.
It's like his very human need for a stable job going up against this backdrop that's like dripping with potential for something spooky to happen.
Yeah. And then you bring in Bill Harmon, the day guard, who just adds to that whole uneasy feeling.
Totally. He's like a walking red flag.
Right from the start, he's giving Marcus all these warnings, but they're not just like practical advice, you know?
Oh, yeah, definitely not.
It's like he's hinting at something more.
Like he knows something we don't.
Exactly, like when he mentions the building making noises, you know, pipe settling, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But then he's like, don't let your imagination run away with you.
That's suspicious.
And then that specific warning about the East Wing, third floor.
Oh, yeah. What was it? Structural issues?
Yeah, structural issues. That's like code for something else, isn't it?
Totally. It's like they're trying to keep something hidden there.
And it just makes you want to know more, you know?
For sure. Like, why is that place off limits? What's the real story?
Right. And it's such a classic horror movie trope, but it works every time.
It really does. I think it's because as humans, we're just wired to be curious about things we're not supposed to know.
Exactly. The forbidden knowledge is always the most tempting.
And with Bill being so nervous and secretive, it just adds fuel to the fire.
Yeah, we know there's more to Pinewood than meets the eye.
But Marcus is our skeptic. He's not buying it at first.
He's grounded, you know?
Yeah, he's like, I stopped believing in monsters a long time ago.
Famous last words, right?
Right. But it's important for the story because it lets us experience everything through his eyes.
Yeah, we get to see him slowly realize that maybe he was wrong about the monster.
And that's where the suspense builds, right?
Absolutely. So as he's making his rounds and he starts feeling like he's being watched,
Ooh, yeah, that's creepy.
and the second floor gets all cold for no reason.
Like freezing?
Yeah, and his flashlight is casting these weird shadows that look like monsters.
Oh, God, I hate that.
All these little things start to chip away at his rational mind.
It would get to me, too.
And then to top it all off, there's no cell service in the office.
That's the worst.
Like the ultimate modern isolation, right?
Totally. In this day and age, being cut off from communication is terrifying.
It just amplifies that feeling of vulnerability.
Yeah, like he's totally alone if anything bad happens.
Exactly.
And then around 9:15, he hears these footsteps on the second floor.
Oh, God, here we go.
He tries to reach Bill on the radio, but nothing, just silence.
So creepy.
He checks every room, every door, everything is locked and empty.
Classic ghost hunting setup.
And just when he's about to give up, he gets near the closed-off East Wing, third floor.
The place Bill warned him about.
And suddenly the temperature plummets.
Oh, no.
And then he hears a whisper, almost too quiet to make out.
What did it say?
Help me.
Chills, dude. Chills.
I know, right? It's like at that point, it's not just a feeling or a shadow, it's a voice.
Yeah, that's what makes it so scary. It feels real.
Like something is actually trying to communicate with him.
And you can totally understand why he wants to quit right then and there.
Oh yeah, I'd be out of there.
But he needs the money, so he stays.
It's that classic dilemma, right? How much are you willing to put up with for a paycheck?
It's a tough call.
And then as his first shift is ending, just as the sun is coming up, he catches a glimpse of something in an Upper East Wing window.
What was it?
Like a pale face, just for a second.
Oh, that's so creepy.
It makes you wonder if it was real or if it was just his imagination playing tricks on him.
That ambiguity is what makes it so effective.
Yeah, it leaves you with this feeling of unease, like, is something really there?
It's the perfect setup for the second night.
Right, where Marcus is trying to rationalize everything.
And that's when Bill drops the bomb about Pinewood's history.
It used to be a psychiatric ward.
Oh man, that changes everything.
It does. Suddenly all those weird vibes make sense.
Yeah, like there's a reason for the unsettling atmosphere.
Like the building is haunted by its past.
And then Bill mentions the sealed room they found during renovations.
The one filled with old patient records.
Yeah, he said it was full of bad stuff like experimental treatments and unexplained deaths.
God, that's awful. It adds a whole other layer of creepiness to the story.
For sure, like you start to think about the potential human cruelty that went on there.
And how that might be connected to the haunting.
Exactly. And then Bill starts sharing stories about the day crew's experiences.
Oh yeah, the disappearing tools, the strange sounds.
And the electrician who quit after feeling like he was pushed on the third floor.
Alone in the dark?
It's like a pattern is starting to emerge.
That whatever is happening isn't just limited to Marcus.
It validates his experiences and suggests that something is really going on.
Yeah, it's not just in his head.
And then to make matters worse, management asks Marcus to inventory the records room,
Like, that's his job for the night.
which just happens to be down a creepy corridor past the old lab.
The room marked records.
Yeah. Talk about a setup.
After everything Bill has told him, there's no way that's going to be a normal task.
Especially with the way they describe the room itself.
Cavernous and filled with dust-covered filing cabinets.
And that musty smell.
It's like stepping into a tomb of forgotten secrets.
For sure.
And then amongst all the ordinary cabinets, there's this one that stands out.
What's different about it?
It's older green and it's locked.
And of course, there's a file sticking out of the drawer.
Just one Subject 23C treatment records classified.
Oh, we know he's going to look at that.
You can't resist, right?
It's that classic classified thing. It just makes you so curious.
Like, what are they hiding?
Exactly. It implies that there's something dangerous or important in there.
And what he finds is definitely disturbing.
Tell me about it.
So it's about this Jane Doe.
Okay.
And they were doing all sorts of experimental treatments on her.
What kind of treatments?
It doesn't really say, but it's implied that they were pretty messed up.
Oh, man.
And she claimed to be hearing voices from the East Wing third floor.
The very place Bill warned him about.
Yeah, and she kept writing this message everywhere, 3 will follow.
That's creepy as hell.
And it gets even worse.
How so?
The file says she died during one of the treatments.
Like they killed her.
Well, it says she had unusual cerebral hemorrhaging.
Sounds suspicious.
And the doctor who was in charge of her case, Dr. Lansing, he wrote this note about a potentially contagious delusion.
Like her madness could spread.
Yeah, it's super unsettling.
And then there's the note from the nurse E. Carter.
She expressed regret for something
And mentioned scratching at the sealed room door.
right before she voluntarily committed herself.
So even the staff were affected by whatever was going on.
It's terrifying.
And then there's the photograph.
Yeah, it shows subject 23C strapped to a bed with the east wing visible through the window.
And those 3 lines scratched into the wall.
It's like a visual representation of her prophecy.
Totally. And right after finding all of this, things start to get really real for Marcus.
Yeah, he hears bang and then footsteps running away.
Oh no.
And then the cameras on the east wing third floor start flickering.
Like something is messing with them.
And then the power goes out.
In the whole hospital.
Yeah, and then he hears that whisper again right behind him, 3 will follow.
Oh my God. It's like whatever was connected to subject 23C has been awakened.
It definitely feels that way.
And now Marcus is in its sights.
So we're going into his third night, and it's a huge storm outside.
Like a hurricane.
Almost, there's tons of rain, lightning, power flickers.
It's like the weather is mirroring the building's atmosphere.
Yeah, totally. It's heavy and oppressive.
And then there's Bill's note.
Yeah, he says he had a family emergency and that maintenance fixed the east wing camera.
And that the company is coming to collect the remaining files tomorrow night.
It all feels a little too convenient.
Like Bill is trying to get out of there before things get really bad.
Yeah, maybe he knows more than he's letting on.
And then there's this unusual quiet in the hospital.
You know, that never means anything good.
It's like something is waiting, holding its breath.
Exactly.
And then Marcus finds a puddle of water on the second floor under an air vent.
Which seems explainable at first.
Right, like maybe a leak or something.
But then he sees something on the East Wing third floor camera monitor.
What is it?
It's a crumpled hospital gown.
In a restricted area.
Yeah, like someone or something is up there.
And even though he knows he shouldn't, he decides to go investigate.
He can't resist the pull of the unknown.
It's that curiosity that gets us all in trouble sometimes.
And of course, all the direct routes to the East Wing are blocked.
It's like the hospital itself is trying to keep him out.
Yeah, but he finds a way around.
Determined.
And when he finally gets to the East Wing doors, they're locked and chained.
With a big sign that says, "Closed, do not enter."
Subtle.
Not really. But during a flash of lightning, he catches a glimpse of something at the end of the corridor.
What does he see?
Just a figure standing there, motionless.
That's creepy enough.
And then during another power outage caused by a huge thunderclap.
He hears the lock on the doors click open.
Like it's inviting him in.
Yeah, the doors slowly swing inward, revealing the empty corridor.
But there's a cold draft and a nasty smell.
It's like the air itself is warning him away.
And then his radio crackles to life.
It's Bill.
What does he say?
He's frantic, telling Marcus to get out of the East Wing immediately.
Did he say why?
He says the supervisors have remote camera access.
They're watching him.
And as if to prove his point, wet footprints start appearing on the dusty floor.
Leading away from the hospital gown.
Like something is walking around up there.
Oh, God.
Marcus snopes out of there and runs back to the security office.
It's empty.
And when Bill calls back, he reveals the horrible truth
What, Shub?
that every night guard who's worked there quit after their third shift.
What, every single one?
Yeah, and the company has been covering it up because they can't find anyone to stay.
That's messed up.
It's like they're sacrificing their employees to whatever is haunting that hospital.
And then Bill finally explains what's going on.
He whispers, 3 will follow.
It's that phrase again.
Yeah, and he says it's all in the old records. Anyone who finds that file 3 nights later, something comes looking for them.
It's like a curse.
And right as he's explaining this, the radio cuts out.
Oh no.
And the door to the security office locks from the outside.
He's trapped.
Yeah, his key fob doesn't work.
And then he sees that the logbook has fallen open to the previous night guard's entry.
Talking about seeing something on the East Wing camera on his third night.
And feeling like it followed him back.
And finding wet footprints.
It's the same pattern.
And then Marcus hears wet footsteps outside the office.
Oh, God.
And in a flash of lightning, he sees her, Subject 23C, standing in the main lobby.
Not a photo, the actual woman.
Yeah, she shushes him and points towards the records room.
Like she's leading him somewhere.
And when she disappears, wet footprints appear where she was standing, leading towards the records room.
Looks like he has no choice but to follow.
Yeah, he's being drawn into something he doesn't understand.
So what happens next?
Well, in Chapter 4, Marcus is facing a choice.
Run or fight?
Exactly. He knows he should probably get out of there.
But something is keeping him there.
Yeah, it's like a morbid curiosity combined with this sense of responsibility.
Like he needs to see this through. And maybe he also feels like he's in too deep to turn back now.
That makes sense.
So he goes back to the East Wing. The doors are wide open this time.
Like it's waiting for him.
And he follows the footprints up the stairs to the 3rd floor.
The Forbidden Zone.
As he walks through the East Wing, he sees signs that people left in a hurry.
Like they were scared.
Yeah, there's a music box playing in one room, and the furniture's all turned towards the wall in another.
Really strange.
And the air on the 3rd floor is noticeably colder.
Ugh, that's always a bad sign.
The walls are chipped tile, and there are all these converted storage rooms.
Sounds like they were trying to hide something.
And at the end of the corridor, there's a set of heavy metal double doors.
What do they say?
Special procedures.
Ominous.
They look like they've been maintained recently, but they're covered in deep scratches.
Like someone was trying to claw their way out?
And there are phrases scratched into the metal, too. Things like, "Let me out," and "They're coming,"
Yikes.
and "3 will follow," of course.
That phrase just keeps popping up.
Yeah. And one more, "They're already inside you."
Chills. Dude, chills.
I know, it's so crazy.
So can he open the doors?
He tries, but they're locked. His keys don't work.
And that's when Subject 23C appears again.
Holding the key.
Of course she is.
But she looks different this time, more solid, like she's becoming more real.
She's gaining power.
And she starts talking about her experience at Pinewood.
What does she say?
She says Jane Doe wasn't her real name.
So they didn't even know who she was.
And she says what made her special was something in there behind those doors.
Like whatever is trapped on the other side.
Yeah, and she says she could hear them, and that eventually the doctor started hearing them too.
Oh, no.
And that's why Dr. Lansing sealed the room after 3 of them got through during her last treatment.
So 3 will follow, or these things she could hear.
Yeah, she calls them her friends and says they just want to get out.
And she blames Marcus for helping them.
Yeah, she says he already started the process by finding the file and coming to the East Wing.
And opening the door will be the final step.
She's playing on his fears, telling him that they're already inside you.
That's messed up.
And she promises chaos and freedom and a remade world if they're released.
And protection for those who help.
Yeah, it's a classic deal with the devil situation.
But then we see her true form.
In a flash of lightning.
Not a human at all.
Something ancient wearing a human memory.
Like a costume.
Yeah, she has black eyes and translucent skin, and behind her you can see something with way too many eyes.
Oh, God.
And she explains why they chose Marcus.
Because he was desperate and curious.
Yeah, and because no one would miss him.
That's cold.
She's so sure he'll open the door.
And then the key she's holding flies towards him.
It burns his palm and disappears beneath his skin.
He's being marked.
And he starts hearing voices in his head.
They're taking control of him.
His hand starts transforming into this claw-like thing reaching for the door.
It's like he's being possessed.
And then he hears another voice. Dr. Lansing's.
Is he there?
No, it's like a disembodied warning telling him to stop her from opening the door.
What happens next?
There's this low thrumming coming from behind the door and frantic scratching.
It wants out.
Dr. Lansing's voice explains that the things behind the wall are real and dangerous.
He says they were trying to stop her from opening it.
And that 3 will follow are the entities she made a deal with.
The ones that gave her power beyond death.
And then the power goes out again.
Oh, no.
And in the darkness, someone chuckles and says, "Too late. She's here."
She got what she wanted.
When the emergency lights come back on, Marcus is alone.
Is she gone?
The green cabinet is open and empty, and there's a new set of wet footprints leading from him towards the East Wing.
She's out.
So chapter 5 starts with Marcus understanding that running won't do any good.
He has to face this thing.
The radio is still silent, the storm is raging outside, and he knows she's waiting for him.
Where is she?
Up on the 3rd floor in front of the special procedures doors.
What's he gonna do?
He goes up there. He doesn't really have a choice.
Ray's drawn to her.
And when he gets there, she's holding the key.
Did she say anything?
Yeah, she asks him, looking for this.
Like she was expecting him.
And he finally calls her by her name.
Jane Doe.
And she starts talking about the truth behind the door and how he's already helped them by coming this far.
And then she reveals her true form again.
Yeah, that lightning flash, it's like her power source.
And what does he do?
He remembers Dr. Lansing's warning.
About the entities behind the wall.
And he knows he has to do something to stop her.
But how can he fight something like that?
He uses his flashlight to smash the window in the door.
What does he see?
Riding dark tendrils reaching out.
Oh, God.
And the entity screams in triumph.
It thinks it's won.
But then Marcus remembers something else.
What is it?
Bill mentioned that the sprinklers in the East Wing weren't working.
And that there were fire extinguishers everywhere.
Exactly. And he also had Bill's lighter in his pocket.
So he's going to start a fire.
He knows it's a long shot, but it's the only thing he can think of.
What happens when he sets the fire?
The room behind the door is revealed. It's like a makeshift chapel with bloody symbols on the walls.
And what's on the altar?
A book. It's burning.
The source of their power.
And the entity is freaking out.
It screams and claws at the door.
Marcus realizes that the book is some kind of anchor to this world.
They needed to stay here.
And as the fire intensifies, the entity's form starts to flicker and blur.
It's weakening.
She warns him that there are other anchors, and that next time they won't need permission to wear skin.
That's terrifying.
And then she dissolves into a puddle of water.
So it's over.
For now.
What about the fire?
It keeps burning, driving the other entities back, and eventually the sprinklers activate.
So they did work.
Yeah.
What happens when the firefighters arrive?
Marcus tells them it was an electrical short and that only old records were lost in the fire.
He's covering up the truth.
He meets Bill in the parking lot at dawn.
What do they talk about?
Bill says he's quitting. He got a severance package.
And they're demolishing the building.
Yeah, they both know it's not over, though.
Marcus is marked.
Bill gives him a card with a number on it and the name Warden.
Someone who can help him.
He tells Marcus to record his dreams and that the entities will try to use his sleep to find him.
That's creepy.
He says hospitals, asylums, and prisons are weak spots.
Thin walls between worlds.
And then there's a distant rumble of thunder.
Like a warning.
Bill tells Marcus to rest while he can.
And then Marcus sees something in an Upper East Wing window.
It's Dr. Lansing's face.
What do you think it means?
I don't know. It's so open-ended. It could be a hallucination, a ghost, a warning.
It's a perfect ending for a story like this.
So chapter 6 jumps ahead a month.
How is Marcus doing?
Not great. He's having these vivid, disturbing dreams about opening the doors to the East Wing and worshiping what comes out.
The entity is still influencing him.
Yeah, he's frantically writing in his dream journal, trying to make sense of it all.
Is he still in contact with Bill?
No, but he tries to call the number Bill gave him for Warden.
And does he get through?
Eventually, he reaches someone named Warren.
Is he part of Warden?
Yeah, he comes to Marcus's apartment and examines his dream journal.
What does he say?
He confirms that Marcus is marked and explains that the entities are called the Old Ones, or the Outsiders.
They exist in another reality.
Yeah, separated from ours by a veil.
And there are thin spots in the veil.
Places where they can get through.
Like Pinewood.
He says they need accomplices to come through, either willing or unwilling.
And that even though Marcus resisted, they still made a connection with him.
And they won't forget him.
So what does Warren offer?
A choice.
What kind of choice?
He can either try to fight this alone or join Warden.
What does Warden do?
They monitor incursions, strengthen the veil, and fight back against the Old Ones.
It's dangerous.
It is. But Warren says Marcus's resistance at Pinewood makes him a valuable asset.
So he agrees to help.
Yeah, Warren gives him an antique pocket watch.
What's special about it?
It's etched with protective symbols and acts as a tether to keep him anchored during his dreams.
And the scar on his palm reacts to it.
Yeah, like it recognizes the watch.
Warren says there are others, like Marcus.
And that the Old Ones are trying harder to get through because the veil is weakening.
What's weakening the veil?
Things like technology, population growth, and environmental degradation.
It's like humanity itself is making it easier for them to invade.
Yeah, and Warren paints a pretty grim picture of what will happen if they succeed.
What did he say?
That reality will collapse and their world will become our world.
That's terrifying.
So he tells Marcus to keep recording his dreams and to carry the watch with him at all times.
And to call if the dreams change.
And then he asks about the entity's real name.
The one who marked him.
Marcus says she told him it wouldn't fit in human language.
So it's truly alien.
Warren confirms that she was just a scout, a fragment of something much larger.
Oh God, there's more of them.
So the story ends with Marcus feeling the comfort of the watch, but still sensing that vast presence watching him.
And his reflection shows darker eyes for a moment.
He's changed.
He's been touched by something otherworldly.
But he's ready to fight back. He's going to keep recording his dreams and try to close the next doorway.
And the final line is chilling.
3 will follow, not tonight, but soon.
It leaves you with this feeling of dread, like the threat is still out there.
It's a perfect ending for a story like this.
So we've just gone through this whole journey with Marcus Reynolds and his terrifying experience at Pinewood Memorial.
And the big takeaway is that idea of thin walls between realities.
The idea that places touched by suffering or trauma can become weak spots where these entities can get through.
It makes you think about all the places in your own life that might have a darker past.
The abandoned buildings, the hospitals, the prisons,
The places we try not to think about.
and what might be lurking there just beneath the surface.
So what do you think about all this?
It's definitely unsettling.
It makes you wonder if maybe those old legends and ghost stories have a grain of truth to them.
That maybe there's more to the world than we can see.
So thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
It's been a wild ride.
And until next time, keep questioning, keep observing, and maybe pay a little extra attention to those quiet, forgotten places.
You never know what you might find.
You never know. Welcome in, everyone. We've got quite the deep dive teed up for you today. It's one that I think is going to be particularly interesting to you, given the source material you provided.
Yes, we're dealing with some fascinating stuff here. Eliza Chen's personal journals and the security footage from the Blackwood Historical Museum in Chicago really kind of pulls back the curtain on something quite unsettling.
Definitely. So for you listening, let's set the stage a bit. Eliza Chen, as you know from your materials, was a night archivist at this Blackwood Museum in Chicago, tasked with cataloging this massive forgotten collection known as the Harrington Collection.
Right. And as I'm sure you've gathered from the materials, what she found there was far more than just dusty old artifacts.
Right. It's a story that quickly spirals into something much more sinister.
Exactly. Full of mysteries and potential dangers.
Oh, yeah. So our mission today is to really get to the bottom of Eliza's story, using your sources to kind of map out the hidden history she uncovered and maybe even consider what dangers might still be lurking within the walls of that museum.
Our goal really is to bring to light the most intriguing and crucial elements of Eliza's time at the Blackwood Museum.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning with Eliza's first impressions of the Blackwood Museum itself. She describes it as this imposing fortress-like building. And that night archivist position, well, it felt a little strange right off the bat, didn't it? The unusually high pay for what seemed like pretty routine tasks.
It is interesting, right? I mean, you've got Eliza, PhD in historical anthropology, a field that, as you know, isn't exactly known for its abundance of lucrative job openings. And then suddenly she's offered this night position with a salary that's significantly higher than you'd expect.
Right. It's almost like a red flag right there.
Yeah, you'd think so. It definitely suggests that there was more to this job than meets the eye.
And then we have her first encounter with Frank Donnelly, the head of night security. Even that brief interaction had some kind of unsettling undertones. What were your initial thoughts there?
Well, it's curious how Eliza describes Frank. She mentions his eyes. How surprisingly alert they were, especially for someone coming on or going off a night shift.
Right, and that firm handshake.
Exactly, that lingering gaze. It immediately creates this atmosphere of suspicion.
And his questions, specifically about the Harrington collection. It seems like he knows something Eliza doesn't.
Yeah, he definitely seems to be holding back some crucial information.
He does give her that vague warning about the noises in the old sub-basements. You know, creaking pipes, settling foundation, the usual stuff you'd expect in an old building like that. But then there's that advice to not let it get to her and to stay in the designated areas because of structural concerns. It just feels like something more than just a concerned security guard giving a routine safety briefing, doesn't it?
It does raise some questions. It's interesting that he frames it as a potential psychological issue, almost as if the noises themselves could have some kind of effect on Eliza's mental state.
Yeah. And then even before Eliza reaches the archives, she starts getting this feeling of being watched in the public galleries, surrounded by all those ancient artifacts.
Right.
Masks, weapons, religious icons. It's like she feels their presence, even though she tries to convince herself that they're just objects.
It's a common experience, actually.
Oh.
In museums and historical sites, this feeling of being observed by the past.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's almost as if the weight of history, the energy of all those who came before, can linger in these objects.
That's interesting. I've never thought about it like that. I wonder if some objects are more susceptible to holding on to that energy than other.
Oh, I'm sure they are. It's fascinating to think about.
So then Eliza finally arrives in the sub-basement archives, clinically lit, very different from the dimly lit galleries above. And there it is, the Special Collections Processing Room, filled with crates labeled Harrington Collection, Shanghai, Tibet, 1923-1925.
You can almost feel the weight of history just reading those labels, can't you?
Absolutely. And then there's that note from Dr. Margaret Walsh. It lays out Eliza's task to catalog everything, prioritizing the Tibetan artifacts marked with red tags for the new East Asian exhibit.
But the key detail there, the one that really stands out for me, is the mention of the missing inventory records.
Right. Lost in the 2008 flood. It's almost too convenient, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It creates this sense of the unknown, the possibility that there could be items within the collection that are completely undocumented.
Right. So Eliza starts going through the crates. At first, it's mostly what you might expect, diplomatic souvenirs, things like that. But then she comes across these oddities.
Like that stone tablet with the unknown script.
Right. And that metal disc that resembled Sumerian artifacts definitely doesn't seem to fit with the Shanghai, Tibet 1923 and 1925 label.
It suggests that either Ambassador Harrington's collecting habits were a lot more diverse than initially thought, or that some of these items might have a much older and more mysterious origin.
And then there's the unmarked wooden box. This is where things take a definite turn.
Oh yes, this is where it starts to get really interesting.
This box is covered in these incredibly detailed carvings of distorted figures engaged in what appear to be ritualistic scenes, and it's completely seamless. No hinges, no openings. Eliza even describes this soft whispering sound it made when she moved it. And at that same moment, the lights overhead flickered and a profound silence fell over the entire archives. It's a lot to take in.
It's a potent combination of unsettling details. The distorted figures, the whispering, the sudden environmental changes. It all points towards something unusual, something potentially dangerous emanating from that box.
Eliza decides to take a break after that, heads to the break room for some coffee, which, by the way, she describes as tasting burnt. And while she's there, she hears this soft, rhythmic tapping sound coming from somewhere beyond the caution tape in the older sections of the sub-basement. like fingernails on metal or bone on stone.
That's a very specific and unsettling sound.
She calls out, but of course there's no response. Admits to feeling a little foolish, but heads back to her workspace. And when she gets back, that feeling of being watched is even stronger. And she notices that the wooden box seems to have shifted position slightly.
The tapping sound, the feeling of being watched, the moving box, it's all starting to add up, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's becoming harder and harder to dismiss this as just Eliza's imagination running wild.
Exactly. Especially considering what happens next.
Right. So Eliza continues working, starts examining the red-tagged crates of Tibetan artifacts. Prayer beads, ritual bells, a furba, all pretty standard religious items. But then she finds this more carefully wrapped bundle containing a dark wood mask, and her description of it is chilling. Unsettlingly realistic features, deep-set eyes, this grimace-like smile, and these strange symbols etched around the edges that look like Tibetan script but subtly wrong somehow.
The wrong symbols, that's what really gets me. It's like someone was trying to mimic Tibetan artistry but got something crucial wrong, or perhaps intentionally altered it.
Right. And then Eliza describes this palpable energy radiating from the mask. She's handled countless artifacts in her career, but she says she's never felt anything like it before. And to top it off, there's a post-it note attached to the bundle. Found with Harrington's personal effects, not for display. Consult restricted files. That's a huge red flag right there.
Absolutely. It clearly indicates that the museum staff were aware of the mask's unusual properties and potential dangers.
And then Eliza has this really disturbing moment where she catches the mask seemingly tilting slightly towards the wooden box out of the corner of her eye. Again, it could be a trick of the light or just her mind playing tricks on her, but given everything else that's happening, it's hard to ignore.
The atmosphere in the archives is becoming increasingly charged, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's almost like the air itself is getting thicker. That feeling of being watched intensifies, and the silence is only broken by the increasingly distinct whispering coming from the wooden box.
It's building to something. It's palpable.
And that's when Frank calls over the radio. Turns out Eliza had missed her scheduled check-in. Museum policy for solo night workers to check in every 2 hours, something Eliza wasn't even aware of.
And Frank's reaction when he hears about the mask is immediate and serious.
Put the mask back exactly as you found it. Do not handle it further. I'm coming down. You can practically hear the urgency in his voice in the recording.
He knows. He knows what that mask is capable of.
And as Frank is making his way down to the sub-basement, the whispering from the box gets louder, and the lights overhead start flickering in rhythm with that tapping sound Eliza heard earlier. It's all starting to connect.
It's like these two objects, the mask and the box, are somehow communicating with each other. Or perhaps they're both responding to Eliza's presence.
Frank arrives, looking grim. His first question is whether Eliza put on the mask. You can hear the relief in his voice when she says no. He immediately shuts down any further work on the Harrington collection, citing special handling protocols. And then there's that weary tone he takes when he talks about the wooden box. It always contains something, different things for different people. That's a pretty cryptic statement.
It is, and it suggests that the box isn't just a container. It's something more, something that interacts with each other on a deeper level.
Frank makes an urgent call to Riley for the special container. And before he leaves, Eliza asks him what exactly Ambassador Harrington brought back from Tibet. And Frank's response is chilling. Not what, Dr. Jen? Who? That one word completely changes the entire narrative, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It shifts the focus from inanimate objects to something or someone else entirely. Something that was brought back from Tibet and has been lurking within the walls of the Blackwood Museum all these years.
So that was Eliza's first night at the Blackwood. And as you know from the rest of her journals and the security footage, things only got more strange and terrifying from there.
Right. And we have to remember, those initial unsettling experiences were just the beginning. The tip of the iceberg, so to speak.
Exactly, because what Eliza uncovered that night, and what you've undoubtedly gleaned from her journals and the security footage, is that this was not an isolated incident. These restricted files, she accessed detail this chilling 18-year cycle of incidents involving archivists and those specific artifacts, the mask and the box.
A pattern of occurrences, stretching back decades, each incident seemingly linked to the next.
Right. And all of them tied to Harrington's expedition to Tibet and his discovery of what he called the waiting ones.
Wow.
These entities that, as Harrington believed, require human vessels to enter our world.
The restricted files provide some truly unsettling details about these incidents. There's this recurring theme of archivists becoming obsessed with the artifacts, exhibiting noticeable physical and mental changes, and engaging in these strange, ritualistic behaviors that always seem to involve the mask in the box.
There's even that disturbing medical report detailing the physical transformation of one of the affected archivists, and the mention of the unknown language he started speaking. It's truly chilling stuff.
It's a horrifying glimpse into what contact with these waiting ones can do to a person. This complete alteration of both mind and body.
And then there are Harrington's own journal entries. They provide even more context to this whole unsettling story. He talks about discovering a non-human structure, artifacts that spoke directly to the mind, and his growing belief in this ritual for their return on a very specific date, November 18th. Even his guide, a local Tibetan, was increasingly terrified of the artifacts and their effects.
It's clear that Harrington himself came to understand the true nature of what he'd found, but perhaps too late.
And as you've no doubt considered, the evidence really starts to point towards the possibility that Eliza wasn't just randomly assigned to the Harrington collection. Her background, her research interests, it all seems to have made her a prime target for whatever's going on at the Blackwood.
Well, and let's not forget Eliza's lineage, her direct descent from Ambassador Harrington himself. That connection plays a crucial role in what unfolds next.
Right. So we move on to Eliza's second night at the Blackwood. Things start to escalate very quickly. Frank is clearly on edge, monitoring Eliza's every move with a new device he's given her. Riley, the other security guard, reports some strange activity in a sealed storage area section C7, which they discover has been breached. And then the mask goes missing. It's pure chaos.
And amidst all of this, Eliza describes this unsettling feeling of being touched by something cold and insubstantial. It's a detail that really sends chills down my spine.
And then things really spiral out of control. The power cuts out. Eliza hears a voice in her mind calling her name. She finds Riley possessed and wearing the mask, and in the conservation lab, they discover a chilling, ritualistic pattern laid out, centered around the deep freeze unit. It's a truly horrifying scene.
The ritual, the possessed Riley, the voice in Eliza's mind. It's all becoming clear now, isn't it? These waiting ones are attempting to enter our world, and Eliza is somehow the key.
And then comes the truly gruesome discovery inside the deep freeze unit. The preserved, transformed bodies of the three previous archivists, Phillips, Lerner, and Marsh. Failed vessels, now serving as some kind of horrifying anchors for this interdimensional doorway.
The creature, speaking through Riley, explains that they need 4 vessels to fully open the doorway. And Eliza, as a direct descendant of Harrington, is the final piece of the puzzle.
It's a horrifying realization, the culmination of everything Eliza has experienced.
And it could have ended right there, with Eliza becoming another failed vessel, another preserved body in the deep freeze.
But that's not what happened. In a moment of incredible bravery, Eliza fights back. She slashes her own palm, disrupting the ritual pattern. The mask and the wooden box are destroyed, and the interdimensional doorway begins to collapse. It's an incredible act of defiance.
Eliza's actions, her willingness to sacrifice herself to stop these beings, it's truly inspiring.
The aftermath of this event is devastating. The museum is in ruins. Riley survives, but is left with some truly horrifying insights into what happened. And then Director Reeves arrives, representing this much older institution that apparently deals with these kinds of interdimensional overlaps. It opens up a whole new world of questions, doesn't it?
It does. It suggests that these events, as terrifying and isolated as they seem, are part of a much larger and hidden conflict, a struggle between our world and something beyond.
And then there's that final chilling detail from Eliza's journal, the fragment of the mask that survived, and the whispering voice she still hears in her mind. Until the next opening, vessel, we are patient. We are eternal, and you are still ours. It's a haunting reminder that this isn't over, not by a long shot.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it?
Right.
That even with the doorway closed, the threat remains. They are waiting, and they will be back.
So for you, the listener, consider this. What other hidden histories, what other dormant threats might be lurking just beyond our perception? What seemingly ordinary objects might hold the key to unlocking unimaginable horrors? And what role might you or someone you know play in these events? It's a chilling thought, but one worth pondering, don't you think?
Indeed. Because the truth is, we may never truly know what lurks beyond the veil of our reality, but we must always be prepared for the possibility that something or someone is watching, waiting for their moment to step into our world.
And that's our deep dive for today. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and as always, thanks for listening.
And remember, sometimes the most unsettling discoveries are the ones we make closest to home.
Okay, so you know that feeling. late at night when everything gets so quiet that it's almost unsettling.
Yeah.
Like it's so quiet that you can hear your own thoughts, and the edges of reality seem a little bit fuzzy.
Yeah, it's like all your senses are heightened because there's no other distractions.
Right. And that's what makes the story you sent in so gripping, so unsettling. You clearly want to get to those moments where it all clicks, and we're going to dive deep into this with you today. We're looking into the experiences of a night security guard named Michael Collins at the now decommissioned Westlake Medical Center. And our mission is to really try to understand, especially during those first few nights, just what he went through.
I think abandoned medical facilities have a certain kind of inherent eeriness when you say, I mean, so much life and death has happened there, and now they just stand empty and silent. It's almost like the walls themselves could hold on to some residue of those experiences.
Absolutely. And it sounds like Westlake definitely had that vibe from your description of it. It was more like a Victorian asylum than a modern hospital. Even the administrative wing, even though it was still in use during the day, I mean, as soon as the sun went down, it felt deserted and a little spooky. Can you imagine those long shadows and echoing footsteps?
It goes against how our minds expect a hospital to be, right? I mean, we think of hospitals as places of healing and activity, and when it's just silent and empty, it feels wrong.
It does. And Michael was coming from a completely different world when he took this job as the night security guard.
Okay.
I mean, he was working in a factory before that and it closed down. So this was a huge change for him.
Yeah.
And of course, this wasn't exactly a job known for being a hive of activity, especially on the night shift. I mean, it was just him alone in this huge empty hospital.
And that isolation is a key factor, I think. It removes all the usual anchors we have to reality. There's no sounds of other people, no normal daytime activity. So any unusual event that happens in that kind of sensory deprivation just becomes amplified.
It's really hard to explain it away.
Exactly.
So he gets his initial instructions from the other security guard, a guy named Jim, in the form of a note. Standard stuff. Rounds at midnight, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., 6 a.m. You check all the exterior doors, you log your checks. But there were a couple of instructions that kind of stood out. One was that he was to avoid the East Wing 3rd floor due to something called structural damage. Now, right away, that sends up a red flag for me because it just seems like such a vague explanation.
It does, doesn't it? It makes you think there's something more to it than just a few cracks in the wall.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then the other instruction was only call the supervisor for genuine emergencies.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that one just makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Definitely makes you think they've had some experiences they'd rather not know about.
Right. Maybe they just don't want to be bothered with certain things. And then, there were also these logbook entries from previous security guards.
Okay.
Mostly routine stuff like all secure or checked all doors, all locked. But then there are these little hints of something else, like heard some strange noises from what sounded like the HVAC system or, motion sensor activated in corridor 3B, but no one there. And then there's the detail that the night shift position had been vacant for quite a while just before Michael started.
Oh.
I mean, to me, that just screams warning sign, doesn't it?
Definitely. I mean, it's a recently closed hospital, and they can't even keep a night shift security guard. It makes you wonder what those other guards saw or experienced that made them leave.
So let's imagine Michael now. It's his first night on the job. He's doing his midnight round. All he can hear are his own footsteps echoing in those long, empty corridors.
Right.
There's the low hum of the emergency lighting.
Right.
Just enough to keep the place from total darkness, and then maybe, the groan of an old building settling. He goes through the second floor pediatric ward, which of course had been vacant for a while, and you mentioned that there were these faded murals still on the walls.
Yeah.
And through the dusty windows, a silent, empty playground. I mean, that's got to be pretty creepy, right?
It's so sad. That space was meant for kids. And the hope of healing. And now it's just lifeless and still.
Yeah.
You can't help but feel like something might be off. Something might be lingering.
Right. And then around 2:17 a.m., things start to get a little unsettling. The lights in the security office flicker. He looks up, a little startled, and he sees on one of the security monitors, the one showing a corridor on the first floor near the surgical wing, a glimpse of movement. Just a shadow passing at the edge of the camera's view.
Wow.
But the thing is, the surgical wing should have been completely empty at that hour.
And that time, 2:17 a.m., that's something to keep in mind, right? I mean, it's an anomaly, a shadow in an empty surgical wing. You could dismiss it, maybe it was just a trick of the light or something, but it's enough to plant that seed of doubt.
Definitely. Now, protocol said he had to investigate any potential security breach, no matter how small. So he tries to call his supervisor, but all he gets is a busy signal. And his cell phone.
Yeah.
No service down in that basement security office. So really reluctantly, he decides to go check it out himself.
Right.
As he's heading towards the surgical wing, he starts to notice the air feels colder. And even the motion-activated lights are acting a little sluggish, like they're slow to respond to his presence.
That kind of sensory stuff, like the temperature drop and the lights malfunctioning, I've heard that reported so much with paranormal activity. It really adds to the feeling that something's just not right, like the environment itself is shifting somehow.
It is. And when he gets to the surgical wing, the doors are closed, but they're unlocked.
Okay.
Which they should be for his rounds.
Right.
But he steps inside and he's hit by this strange feeling, this really artificial stillness, almost like the air is holding its breath.
Oh, wow.
He calls out, "Hello, security, is anyone here?" But all he hears is silence. He checks the operating rooms, the supply closets, everything seems in order, nothing out of place. But just as he's about to leave, he hears it. The unmistakable squeak of rubber-soled shoes on the tile floor, and it seems to be coming from one of the operating rooms he's already checked.
A cell like that, so distinctly human, in a place that's supposed to be totally empty. It just bypasses all the explanations about creaking pipes or wind.
Yeah.
Makes you think it's another person or something pretending to be.
Yeah. And then he hears what sounds like a faint whisper.
Ooh.
So heart pounding, he slowly makes his way back to operating room 3, flashlight cutting through the darkness. He announces himself again, and that's when he hears it. A child's laugh.
Ooh.
Quick and light, and then it's just gone, like it's swallowed up by the silence.
That's terrifying. A child laughing in an empty operating room. I mean, it doesn't fit. It makes it seem like something otherworldly is there.
I know. So he pushes open the door, flashlight sweeping across the room. You know the operating table is draped, the equipment's all there, but the room is empty. But he still feels this presence, this weight in the air, like something unseen is right there with him. And then his flashlight starts to flicker. And in that split second of darkness, he gets the distinct feeling that something has moved behind him. He spins around, heart leaping into his throat, but the doorway's empty. The motion-activated lights in the corridor outside have gone dark.
Those unreliable little things like the flashlight and the motion lights, they just make things so much worse, don't they? I mean, you can't trust your own senses. It's impossible to know what's real and what's not.
Right. So he backs out of the operating room, cold sweat breaking out all over him, turns to leave the surgical wing, and the corridor lights suddenly flash back on. Momentarily blinds him, and when his vision clears, he sees this small figure standing at the far end of the hall. It's too far away in that dim light to make out any real details, but it's definitely there.
It's like a visual confirmation of everything else he's experienced. You know, it makes it more real, even though he can't see it clearly.
He calls out, his voice echoing down the empty hallway, but the figure just stands there, motionless. He starts walking toward it slowly, flashlight beam fixed right on the spot where he saw it, and then the lights flicker again, just for a fraction of a second. And when they come back on, the figure is gone. Vanished.
Wow.
So he heads back to the security office, and he makes an entry in the logbook, just says, possible intruder in the surgical wing, but he doesn't mention the child's laugh or the feeling of a presence in the operating room, because those just felt too subjective, you know?
Of course. I mean, how do you report that? It all sounds so unreal.
Exactly. The next morning, when he's handing over to Jim kind of brushes it off, says it was probably just the wind or the ventilation system moving some plastic coverings. It felt like a really quick dismissal, almost too convenient.
It does seem a little too easy to explain away, especially when he's obviously shaken up about it.
Yeah. And then Jim casually asks him if he included the pediatric ward in his rounds, mentions that other guards have found it kind of creepy. And it's that little comment, almost like an afterthought, that hints that maybe what Michael experienced wasn't so unique after all.
It's like he's acknowledging that, yeah, weird things happen in this hospital, but no one really talks about it openly.
Okay, so night 2, Michael is determined to stick to his rounds, Just do his job, not let his imagination run away with him.
Right.
And Jim reports a totally uneventful evening shift, attributes any weird vibes to the old building just settling and making noises. But Michael can tell that he's holding something back, that he isn't telling the whole story.
Right.
And then Jim gives him another cryptic warning.
Yeah.
Says, stay away from the East Wing, 3rd floor, whatever you do, don't go up there.
Wow.
And this time it's not just about structural damage. There's a more serious, unspoken reason behind it.
It's really unsettling when someone warns you about something, but they won't tell you why. Like, what are they hiding?
Exactly. So naturally, Michael's curiosity is piqued. During his shift, he gets on the computer in the security office and starts digging into the history of Westlake. He finds out it opened in 1972, but it actually incorporated the East Wing of the old county hospital.
Okay.
And that included the 3rd floor, the one that's now off limits. Then he finds some local news articles from way back in 1971 detailing the deaths of 5 children in the pediatric ward.
Oh.
Which, remember, was in the old East Wing.
Right.
Just before they shut the place down. The official explanation was this rare, aggressive bacterial infection that ripped through the ward.
Wow.
But the articles also mention all these rumors of negligence and strange occurrences the nights leading up to the kids' deaths.
So you've got this tragic history, these mysterious deaths, and then you have the strange experiences the security guards are having. It makes you wonder, is there a connection?
Right. And then Michael digs a little deeper, and he finds even more recent reports.
Yeah.
Less formal, but still pretty unsettling.
Right.
Things like medical equipment turning on and off by itself, patients claiming to see children that weren't actually there,
Oh, wow.
night shift staff requesting transfers because of disturbing events.
It really sounds like this hospital had a reputation.
It did.
Yeah.
And then during his 2 a.m. round, as he's walking through the former pediatric ward on the 2nd floor, he sees something. This bright red plastic ball just sitting in the middle of the hallway.
Okay.
He's sure it wasn't there on his midnight round. So he reaches down to pick it up, and the ball suddenly rolls away from him. And at that same moment, the temperature drops.
Wow.
I mean, he can see his breath in the air. And the ball rolls again, this time towards the darkened doorway of the old playroom.
Yeah.
And as it moves, he hears this soft, almost musical humming sound coming from inside.
Okay, so a child's toy moving by itself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's classic paranormal activity right there. And usually it's associated with children's spirits.
Yeah.
And then that sudden drop in temperature is another common thing. Some people think it's linked to the energy of the entity or whatever it is manifesting itself.
Interesting. So the playroom itself is mostly empty. Most of the furniture's been taken out, but there's still some faded artwork on the walls, a few toys left behind.
Right.
And the humming sound just stops as soon as he steps into the room.
Oh.
And then right behind him, he hears a whisper. Very close.
Yeah.
Someone says, "But we can't leave." He spins around, flashlight sweeping the empty doorway, and the door, which he's sure he left open, is now closed. And the red ball is gone.
Wow. So it's gone from these subtle, maybe explainable events to full-blown paranormal activity.
Right. And then the overhead fluorescent lights start to flicker, and in the moments of darkness, he sees these small, darting shadows moving at the edge of his vision.
It sounds like this trapped energy these children may be trying to communicate.
And when the lights stabilize, there in the center of the room is a boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old, wearing these faded blue pajamas. And his outline, it's a little hazy, you know, like he isn't quite solid. Michael asks him, kind of startled, how he got in. And the boy just says in this really sad voice, "We've always been here, ever since the bad night. When the dark doctor came, he was supposed to make us better, but he made us stay instead. Now we can never leave, not any of us."
So now we've got a name, a face to the evil, so to speak, and confirmation that the children are definitely trapped there somehow.
Yeah. And then the boy starts to fade, his image becoming translucent.
Yeah.
And before he vanishes completely, he looks right at Michael and says, he doesn't like new people. He doesn't like witnesses. Be careful at 217, always at 217.
That warning about 2.17 is clearly so significant. It seems like something bad always happens at that time.
Yeah. And then the boy's just gone. And Michael reaches out instinctively, his hand passing right through the space where the child was standing. The temperature keeps dropping. And he sees frost starting to form on the windows.
Wow.
Then the overhead lights flicker violently and just go out, leaving him in total darkness.
Oh, no.
And then, in the silence, he hears heavy footsteps approaching the playroom door from the corridor outside.
It's a totally different feeling from the children, isn't it? Much more threatening.
It is. So the doorknob slowly starts to turn. Michael fumbles for his radio, but it's dead. No signal.
Oh.
The door creaks open, revealing the empty corridor.
Oh.
But then he feels it, this icy breath on the back of his neck.
Oh, gosh. That's one of those classic ghostly sensations, isn't it? Yeah. Feeling a cold breath when there's nothing there.
It is. Whatever is there is already in the room with him, unseen.
Yeah.
So he whirls around, flashlight cutting through the darkness, but the room is still empty. Then he hears a voice, not coming from anywhere specific, but like it's everywhere around him. And it says 2:17, always at 2:17.
That's creepy. It's like it's emphasizing that time again.
Yeah. And he looks down at his watch, and it's 2:1 a.m.
Wow.
He doesn't even hesitate. He turns and runs, bolts out of the playroom, down the corridor. As he gets to the main hallway, the overhead lights suddenly blaze on, blinding him for a second. And when his vision clears, he sees a figure standing at the other end of the hall.
Oh, no.
It's tall, gaunt, wearing a stained white coat. Its face is just wrong. The features are too sharp, the smile is too wide, and when it raises a hand, he sees that its fingers are unnaturally long. There's too many of them.
Like something out of a nightmare.
It is. And behind him, he hears the faint chorus of children's whispers just pleading, "The Dark Doctor, hide."
So it's him, the Dark Doctor from the boys' story.
Yeah. He doesn't need to be told twice. He sprints for the nearest stairwell, the door jamming for a second before it finally bursts open. He doesn't stop running until he hits the ground floor. He stands there, catching his breath. It's completely silent. And then he heads back to the security office, tries to make sense of what he's just experienced, tries to explain what is clearly unexplainable. He makes another logbook entry, vaguely mentions unusual noises and visual disturbances. And when Jim comes in for the morning shift, Michael tells him some of what happened, but he leaves out the craziest parts. And Jim, he doesn't even seem that surprised. He just says, really wearily, tricks of the light, building settling, overactive imagination. Easier to believe that than the alternative, you know?
Yes,
right?
he knows, but he's tired of dealing with it, almost like he's resigned to it.
Yeah. And then he drops a bombshell. He explains that the East Wing 3rd floor, the one Michael's been told to avoid, was actually where the old pediatric ward was before 1971, before those deaths. And they all happened under the care of a Dr. Lawrence Morris. And as soon as Michael hears that name, he whispers, "The Dark Doctor?" And Jim's face just pales.
So there's definitely a connection then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim confirms that most people don't actually encounter Moors that quickly, that usually it's just the children trying to warn them.
Right.
But he tells him 2:17 a.m., that was the exact time of death for the first child who died back in 71, and that's when Dr. Morris is strongest. He tells him Morris was never actually charged in connection with the deaths, but he later committed suicide and left a note.
Wow.
In the note, he claimed he was easing their suffering because their voices called to him at night.
That's really disturbing. So it sounds like we're dealing with a residual haunting here. Maybe a place and time that's somehow stuck in a loop, replaying that trauma over and over again.
Jim lays out the pattern for him. He says first the children appear, often trying to communicate. Then Morris shows up around 2:17 a.m., moving down through the hospital from the 3rd floor. As for why there aren't any official reports of this, Jim just shrugs and says it's dismissals, transfers, the official line being that it's all night shift hallucinations. And his advice:
Yeah.
stay out of the East Wing.
Right
And
out.
definitely avoid the 2nd floor, especially around 2:17 a.m.
Wow. So now we're getting a much clearer picture of what's going on, but it's even more terrifying than we thought.
Night 3 rolls around. Michael spends his day off consumed by researching Dr. Morris and the pediatric ward deaths. He digs up some old newspaper articles, finds out 5 kids died in a 2-week period. Officially a bacterial infection. Morris was cleared of any wrongdoing, but then there's that partial quote from a suicide note that Jim mentioned.
So what about their voices calling?
Yeah, and having to beg for their release. And the most chilling thing, every single one of the kids died at exactly 2:17 a.m.
That can't be a coincidence. It just adds to the idea that this isn't just some random haunting.
It does. So as his shift approaches, Michael makes a decision. He's not quitting. Not yet. But he's definitely avoiding the East Wing. That 3rd floor is a no-go.
Right.
And he's steering clear of the 2nd floor playroom around 2:17 a.m.
Smart.
So he arrives for his shift. And the atmosphere, it feels even heavier than before. More oppressive. Even Jim, who is usually pretty reserved, is really talkative tonight. Mentions the next day is October 17th.
Oh, the anniversary of the first child's death?
Yeah, and he just has this bad feeling about it, like something's going to happen. So he gives Michael a direct order: stay in the security office around 2.0 mm. Doesn't matter what he sees on the monitors.
Oh, I'm serious.
Midnight rounds pass without incident, but Michael just can't shake this feeling of being watched.
Yeah.
He hears these faint sounds he can't place.
Yeah.
And the security camera feeds all look normal, but he keeps seeing movement in the empty corridors out of the corner of his eye.
That's unnerving.
Then around 1:45 a.m., the temperature in the security office drops. The lights start to flicker.
Oh, gosh.
And at 1:50 a.m., the monitor showing the second floor playroom flickers and the image changes. It's now showing the playroom as it would have been back in 1971.
Wow. So it's like a window to the past.
It is. There are toys everywhere and 5 children playing.
Wow.
And as Michael watches, completely mesmerized, one of the children, the same boy he saw before, turns and looks right at the screen. He reaches out a hand like he's touching the glass and mouths the words, "He's coming, 2:17. Always at 2:17.
I don't know.
Then the monitor flickers and returns to the present view of the empty playroom. Michael looks at the clock and it's exactly 2 a.m. A few minutes later at 2:10 a.m., the monitor showing the 3rd floor of the East Wing, the off-limits area, it's just static.
Yeah.
And then the static clears and the distorted face of Dr. Morris fills the screen. He's staring right at the camera. His features are all wrong. His white coat is stained and ripped. His smile is terrifying, and he's pointing this long skeletal finger at the camera. Then the image starts to move. It's heading down the stairwell.
It's like he knows Michael's watching.
Right as that happens, Michael's radio crackles to life. It's Jim's voice, but it's all garbled. He can barely make out what he's saying.
What does he say?
He hears something about coming down and leave now and don't let him find you. And then the transmission just cuts out. At the same time, the monitor showing the stairwells go dark and the phone on the desk starts emitting this steady tone.
Oh, my God. It's like all communication is cut off.
It is. Michael knows he has to get out of there.
Yeah.
He jumps up, runs for the emergency exit. But as he gets there, the lights go out.
Oh, no.
The emergency lights come on, bathing everything in this red glow, and he pushes the bar on the emergency exit, but it's jammed.
Oh, no. He's trapped.
The clock on the wall says 2:1 a.m.
Oh,
And then he hears those heavy footsteps outside the security office door. The temperature plummets. He can see his breath. The doorknob slowly starts to turn. The door creaks open. And the hallway, it's empty. But he feels surrounded, this suffocating cold pressing in from all sides.
it's so close now.
And then Dr. Morris appears in the doorway, not as an image on a screen, but physically there.
Wow.
His white coat is torn and stained, his features are all wrong, and when he speaks, it sounds like dry leaves scraping together. Night rounds must ease suffering.
So creepy.
Michael accuses him, voice trembling, of killing the children.
Yeah.
But Morris just hisses as he released them. Nothing dies here. We're all trapped forever at 2:17.
Oh, God. So he really believes he's helping them, that he's doing the right thing.
He steps closer, says Michael's another witness now, another participant in the endless night rounds. And when this hospital's gone, then we'll move on somewhere else, clinging to anyone who's seen them.
Oh, wow. So it's not even tied to the building.
He reaches out this long skeletal hand towards Michael. Michael ducks away, feeling a wave of cold. The security office door slams shut. The cold intensifies and frost starts spreading everywhere, covering the monitors in these intricate patterns. Morris's voice, closer now, rasps, "No escape during rounds, 2:17 stretches forever."
He sounds so sure of himself, like he's in control.
And suddenly, in this moment of desperation, Michael swings his flashlight, smashing one of the computer monitors.
Oh.
He grabs a shard of glass and, without even thinking, cuts his palm.
Oh, my God.
And the sight of blood, the smell of it, it stops the entity. Morris stops moving. He's fixated on Michael's bleeding hand. His form flickers. And at the same moment, Michael can hear the children's voices. They're faint, but they're there, woven into the entity's voice, like they're arguing with him. Morris is still staring at the blood, and he hisses, "Life flowing, not frozen at 2:17. And it clicks for Michael. He smears the blood from his hand onto the frost on the wall. And as the blood touches the ice, the frost recedes. And Morris actually steps back. Michael says, "The hospital is closed. It's time to move on." And he presses his bloody hand against the wall.
Oh, my God. That's incredible. It's like he instinctively understands that life, that blood, is the key to breaking this.
The entity starts flickering violently. Its coat becomes almost transparent. And for the first time, Michael sees something in its eyes, maybe confusion, maybe even fear. And the children's voices are getting louder. "Let us go. Let us move on. No more night rounds."
They're empowered now.
Morris raises his skeletal hands and says, "My patience, my responsibility, my rounds are not complete. 2:17.
Oh, no.
But Michael cuts him off. It's just time. It's over.
Wow.
The lights start flickering like crazy. The temperature swings from freezing to hot and back again. The entity is becoming unstable. The children's voices reach a crescendo coming from everywhere. Let us go. Let us move on. No more night rounds.
And then there's this sound like shattering glass, and the entity of Dr. Morris just fractures and disappears into shadow.
There's this final unearthly wail and then silence. The temperature in the room returns to normal. The frost vanishes. Michael is standing there, heart pounding, the cut on his palm stinging. He looks at the emergency exit and the push bar is free now. He pushes the door open and stumbles out into the parking lot. He checks his watch. 2:22 a.m.
They made it past 2.17.
He stays out there bandaging his hand. And a while later, Jim pulls into the lot. He takes one look at Michael and says, "You saw something, didn't you?" Michael nods. He's exhausted. He says, "I think it's over." Jim's skeptical, but he nods slowly. He says, Maybe the power of life against a moment frozen in death. Maybe you're right." Michael tells him he isn't coming back, and Jim agrees to cover until they can find someone else.
It's incredible to think that such a simple act, the blood, the symbol of life, could be so powerful against something like that.
So Michael spends the next day on edge, Every shadow seems like a thread. He can't sleep. The cut on his hand is throbbing, healing slowly. And that evening, the anniversary of the first child's death, he is drawn back to Westlake. He's parked across the street, watching the building, when Jim pulls up beside him. So Michael, worried about Jim, decides to go inside, even though he has no reason to be there.
Right.
And the atmosphere inside, it's different. It's heavier, darker. The security office is empty. The wall where he smeared his blood is clean, like nothing happened.
Wow.
And Jim's logbook is on the desk. The last entry says he was investigating a possible intruder on the East Wing 3rd floor at 12:45 a.m.
Oh, no.
Michael heads straight for the East Wing. The corridors seem to stretch forever, and he can hear these faint sounds, maybe Jim's voice. When he gets to the 3rd floor, the caution tape and the barrier are torn down. And stepping into the East Wing, it's like stepping back in time. It's all different. The architecture, the colors, the lights.
Wow.
The air itself feels wrong, heavy with the past. Michael calls out for Jim, and all he hears is the ticking of a clock nearby.